Here we go, here's one. So at the conclusion of this, we're gonna do a little exercise. There's quite a few articles in here. They're all one page and quite a few of them are different. Okay, so each of you, I want you to come up and grab one and then search around and find people that have the same article as you. Okay, but they're all mixed up. And then you're gonna get in groups and I'll explain an activity. But there's a nice big pile of articles. Okay, so me and Mariah as well are in a body image and eating disorders in special populations class. If any of you are in health promotion and you haven't taken one, they're really, really cool. Okay, they've broadened your horizons on many, many facets of eating disorders, body image, self-esteem, confidence, internal struggle. So I highly recommend one if you haven't taken one yet. But this is your extra credit opportunity, and I encourage you to take notes because it will help you with the activity. And you will need to be writing. You can either write on the back of your article, or you can write on a separate piece of paper. But yeah, you will have to turn these in, and I will take them and insert them into Canvas for your extra credits. Okay? So let's get started. So the objectives for today. First, we're going to define what's an eating disorder and what is body image. What are those things? How different college populations, so this applies to you, experience these in different ways. Because on a college campus, we've got a lot of diversity. Not only in culture, okay, but in occupation. We got athletes, men, women, people that are a little younger, people that are older, veterans. We've got a lot of people on this campus that you might not even be aware of. Like, wow, they do that? We've got a lot of populations. Compare and contrast reasons for each college population developing these body image and eating disorder kind of problems. Because it's unique between each population. They don't all suffer the same from these. Okay, next. Did anybody ever do a bell ringer in high school? You remember bell ringers? You'd come into the classroom, right? And there'd be like bell ringer. And then you'd think about some question. Did you ever do bell ringers? No? I caught the tail end of them in high school, and then they just became this bigger thing. But we're gonna do one today, so you get a chance to participate. So I want you to get in groups of 2 to 3 and go ahead and take a shot at these. Give me your best definition, okay? I wanna know what you know. So go ahead, you can move around. 2 to 3, groups of 2 to 3, and we'll take 2 to 3. You can have 4, that's fine. Yeah, or I'll just come over here. 3. You want Mariah on your team. You want Mariah on your team. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I see. Body, same. Or is it?
Is it? I mean, I think usually when we talk about it's assumed that you're talking about yourself, but it's a good point that, like, especially in today's society, even without thinking about it, make judgments on the other people. So
Yeah, I like that.
I know, more like,
I feel like literally every single one. Yep, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a bit of
I have that one.
how you so like your intake, your not reading too much. But I think in terms of eating disorder versus like a food problem that may contribute to like overeating or something like that, it's usually something factors.
Yeah.
Like for example, my brother's on a medication, just like hungry all the time, so he eats all the time even if he doesn't forget, and that's not like a psychological eating disorder.
That's how I
That's
cover
it.
But
Okay. Let's wrap up.
Let's hear from some of your groups, what you came up with. I heard snippets of awesome ideas, awesome brainstorming. Let's start over here. What did you come up with? Shot at any of them that you would like.
What do you guys think? Like the third one, I mean, we obviously said anyone is really prone to it.
Uh-huh.
But she brought up a good point, how eating disorders, a lot of people hear it and they automatically think like it's anorexia or like bulimia, but on the other spectrum too, it could be like obesity, right? Where you have, right? Like an
Yeah.
obsession with food too.
Yeah.
Because we define eating disorder or as something that, well, let's see, I put denying food that can result in damage to health, but see, you don't really have to deny the food, you can just overdo it too, and it's still gonna damage your health, so.
Yeah.
depriving or even indulging
Yeah.
can harm your body.
Okay. So too much or too little? We're talking about a spectrum here, aren't we? Right? So, too little, too much. Great point. Great point. I think a lot of times we just think it's this. That's all we think the eating disorders are. Just not eating enough. Somebody else. Go ahead.
On body image and how you look at your body, and it could either be positive or negative.
Okay, it can be positive or negative. What do you all think when you think of body image? Do you think of something positive or do you think of something negative? Okay, but same here, same thing. Okay, so body image, it can be positive, right? It can be, we can think great things about our bodies. Or body image, we can think not such good things. Okay, so we're on a spectrum here. Somebody else. Somebody else. Go ahead.
I'm thinking back to that when we come to eating disorders, we're talking about special populations, so those who are athletes, those who are maybe about pregnant mothers who have that influence. We talked about those, as those who come to our culture and see how our culture influences something in their bodies. Those who be, those from Africa, things like that, and maybe even older generations too. So it really can affect everyone, no matter what age and what population.
Good. And this is what I wanted you to derive from this, is that, when we start thinking about this, there's a wide array of people, especially when we ask who might be prone to these. When we're thinking about who might be prone, though, who might be maybe more prone to some of these? Eating disorders or body image problems.
I would say everyone, but specifically adults, adolescent girls, they're at a higher risk.
Okay. Okay, adolescent girls. Go ahead, Cindy.
I personally think that like the younger generations who have like been in social media a lot have a lot of, potential eating disorders just because they see so many people who are perfect, but it's like edited pictures all the time, so their whole lives they've seen that,
Okay. So, just going off what you said with social media, how do you think that's affecting our body image on this scale? Come again, Jess?
It's negative.
Okay. A theory where, yes, people derive their physical abilities, any sort of attribute that they might have. We're going to talk a little more about that. Go ahead, Jess.
Or just like body dysmorphia, fall into that. Like if you're not comparing to someone else, you're like always like comparing yourself.
Okay. So, body dysmorphic disorder can be part of it, because you're always looking at something that you perceive as being more ideal or beautiful than you. But the dysmorphic disorder is when you look in the mirror and you might really have this kind of body shape, but what you're seeing is something much different. Okay? It's characterized as a psychological disorder. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, we're going to move on, just because time is of the essence. So a lot of you had great definitions. And there are many definitions because the scope and breadth of this is huge. Okay? But here's just one. It's how people feel, think, and act in accordance to their physical appearance. Or certain attributes about their body. What they think about it, how they feel about it. Even the way that they behave about that certain part of their body. And then we've got eating disorders. There's a group of them. And they're categorized by just abnormal behaviors and attitudes when it comes to eating. I'm going to flip these lights off, just because it's a little bit for you. So this is, I always, glance at magazines going through the grocery line or the magazine section, and I look at these and I think, man, I don't just look at the body, but you got all these snippets here saying all kinds of things. And it's usually slimmer, thinner, better, sexier. How can I be more appealing to somebody else? I don't usually see something about how can I love myself more, just the way that I am. So it's something to think about when we're talking about body image. Okay, influences. Sydney brought up social media. That's a huge influence today on our body image. And having poor body image, having a low body image, is positively correlated with developing eating disorders or disordered eating pathologies. Here are just a few, though. Influences. Our peers. So the people we hang around a lot, people we work with. Our friends. The people we work out with, for example. Well, what kind of exercises are they doing? I want to do those. That could be a social comparison. Our family. They set standards for us all the time. All the time. Partners. We want to look good for whoever we want to attract. We want to be sexy. A lot of times we think, hey, if I'm sexy and my appearance is awesome, I'm going to attract a lot of partners, a lot of eligible partners. The media, Sydney brought this up. Today, one of the biggest influences is social media. Holy smokes. The editing and photoshopping that goes on with social media today, it's setting these unrealistic standards for us. The photoshopping, holy smokes. Be careful, what you see isn't necessarily what's going on. Diet industry, holy smokes. Go back to that magazine cover. Do these 5 things and you're gonna look perfect. I don't know, are we? Or are we really gonna feel better about ourselves? Events and social functions on college campuses. Okay, going to bars. Sometimes even just going to class. We compare ourselves all the time. All right. So something we don't think about very often though is who suffers from poor body image or eating disorders. Because typically we categorize them as a affluent or kind of middle class white woman's problem. Because we have this ideal of being very, very thin and we can't seem to meet it. We want to so bad. Okay, this idea of being really thin is positively correlated with being very feminine. Okay? We forget about these other populations though. Like men, athletes, okay? How they might deal with some of these. People that are older, okay? We categorize this as like a college, just a college population problem, but a lot of college students are 35 and up. Okay? And what about different ethnicities? People that are coming from different cultures. What about them? So let's just talk about a few. Uh-oh. Microsoft PowerPoint has stopped working. Restart the program. Oh, it's restarting on its own. That doesn't happen very often. Technical issues. There we go. Okay. So here we go first. We're going to talk about women. Okay, here we go. Linear relationship. Let me get a better marker here. Somebody tell me what a linear relationship looks like. Linear. Back to algebra. If I can draw that graph, somebody tell me what does a linear line look like?
Straight line.
Okay, straight line. Okay. Is it kind of going like at an angle? Okay. So if we're talking about women, we're talking about the research here. Okay, and we've got BMI here. Okay, and this is going to be low, and this is going to be high. Okay, women typically have a linear relationship when it comes to BMI. That means the lower their BMI, the better their body satisfaction is. They typically are happier with their body when it's leaner. Whereas when BMI goes up, they experience more dissatisfaction with their bodies. And if we're talking about body dysmorphic disorder, okay, we can be right here, really, on a scale, but we see ourselves as right here. And then we have those ill feelings towards our body. Pressure to be thin comes from many directions, such as social media, such as fitting in, okay? Angelina Jolie. Wow, has she been prevailing in the media? What have some of you heard about Angelina Jolie in regards to her body? Nothing? It was a couple years back, just all over the news, because
Struggled with anorexia.
she struggled with anorexia for a long, long, long time. But we have her on the cover here. It's widely known that she struggled with her body image for a long time. But she's on the front covers here. Not only are children, but adolescents and college students, they look up to her. They see her as an icon of beauty, of power. So we have to think about, what are we kind of portraying to our younger generations when it comes to body image and healthy diet? If they're looking up to people that have struggled with this. Found wide out. This is something I just found the other day. Fashion industry suddenly acknowledges its anorexia problem. Okay, because we've got these runway models, they're doing the same thing. They're saying this is the ideal for beauty, and here's the standard, and go after it. Okay, what are we telling our younger generations? Especially if they're acquiring eating disorders. Okay, let's move on. Men. So there's a curvilinear relationship with men. And let's think about this. Okay, so if we've got BMI, and we've got high, and then we've got low, oops, and then this is body dissatisfaction. Okay, it goes like this. Whew. So that means there isn't just an extreme. It means you gotta kind of fit a certain category here in order to be the ideal. Okay, somewhere right in here. Thanks. What do you think about the ideals set for men when it comes to body image? Do you think they're more strict than they are for women? What do y'all think? As far as meeting this ideal, go ahead, Casey.
It's a little bit different, I think, because if you socially, you look like a thin woman, you're just like, she's beautiful. But you look like a thin man, you're just like, oh, he just looks kind of sick or weak.
Okay.
And that seems very different to me. But then also, not like bigger, but like the more weight that you have as a man without being, very big. Like I feel like people are just like, well, he's just a guy, so like why wouldn't he look like that?
Okay.
So there's like kind of more of a standard on like the extremes, but like in the middle, it's like, well, that's just like what they are. So, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel like there's two standards. Like they need to be also lean but muscular.
Okay.
So instead, like for females, it's usually just lean, just petite, small.
Yeah.
You can be a big guy, you can be a small guy, but you have to almost fit two categories.
Okay, so go ahead. Yeah.
So I was gonna say that if you're not muscular, then you're associated with being feminine. And there's like this idea about being feminine, like, oh, it's wrong for a man to be feminine, but really feminine means like being nurturing and caring and loving and all these great like qualities that men can also have. If they don't have the muscles or the strength, then they're associated with like this negative category. And that goes against how we were born.
Wow, okay. So we're talking about masculinity, huh? Upholding masculinity. You're talking about how being too thin you're seen as being weak. What about if you're too big? What do you think if you're too big?
Similar, like in a way that like almost like you lack like an ambition. What was that? Like lazy almost. Yeah, like you either like on both ends. I feel like you just aren't trying like hard enough to be like ideal. If that makes sense.
Okay. You're not trying to be a man.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to be somewhere in the middle. We've got to be lean and kind of, but we have to also be toned. We've got to be defined. We got to be Brad Pitt. Oh man, interesting. And I found this on the internet a couple months ago and thought it was interesting. Because a lot of times we don't think about the struggles that men have to deal with when it comes to eating disorders or body image problems, because we just think it's a female problem. But then looking at these magazines, you think, wow, it must take a lot of work to get to that sort of body form. And we don't think about steroids, we don't think about over-supplementation, we don't think about obsessive exercise routines either that men might be engaging in to kind of fit this. And there's tons of these. The Skinny Guys workout program to build muscle. Google it. All kinds of stuff will pop up. Okay, just look at this really quickly. Ideals for men. We get the 1970s. Okay, and we have the kind of corresponding bodies right here. The 30s, John Wayne. He's kind of muscular, but he's not too small. The 60s, John Lennon. Kind of had that rocker style body, that thin rock style. And then we went to the 80s, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Holy smokes. And today, Brad Pitt. Standard. Just something interesting to look at, how these have changed over time. Some pretty drastic changes. Okay, let's talk for a second about athletes. Megan had to leave, but wow, has anybody ever seen these before? All these images, there's tons of them on Google. If you just Google athletes and body image, oh my goodness, look at the body ideals and how different they are for each sport. We got Tara Lipinski over here, 5'1", 95 pounds. And then we've got, let's see, who else? Kim here, bodybuilding, 5'8", 135 pounds. What do you think about athletes having to fit different body norms? What do they have to do to get all these desired results? Some of you are making some faces.
I feel confused because you said that Kim was a bodybuilder, but she's only 135 pounds, which seems very light to me for a bodybuilder.
You know, I sent this picture to 10 different people yesterday. Because what do you think when you look at her? Do you think she weighs 135 pounds? I got that. I got the same exact response from everybody that I sent it to. I said, what? And I'm wondering for these pictures if they actually weighed them, or if the athlete went in and said, this is what I weigh. Holy smokes. What kind of struggles do you think they have to overcome, though, in order to get some of these bodies?
Sorry for talking so much,
No,
but
go
I
ahead.
feel like the way that you're born with your body kind of like helps dictate like what, like runners are, like taller, slender, longer legs, but then like bodybuilders I feel like are going to be shorter, and like because they not necessarily not like a dictation by any means, but like that's just like a trend I see, and I feel like some people want to be something that like their body necessarily can't, like isn't built to do, so they push themselves further.
Yeah, interesting. And in order to get to that state, they might have to take some drastic measures. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think almost probably every single one of these people had to go through some sort of sacrifice with their lifestyle or even their bodies in general. Like, a lot of bodybuilders will take certain things to help them get to their point that can cause some drastic changes in their body that they can't normally get back, or it takes a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at some of these body types, I mean, all of them seem seem kind of strict. But if we look at some of them, you know, like the runners, the dancers, the figure skaters, or the sports that require them, let me see, basketball, wrestling, that require them to be in a certain weight category. Okay, wow, if you're not making weight in your weight class, you gotta do something about it, don't you? Or what about looking really, really good in your figure skating outfit when it comes to appearance? Cheerleading's another one. Okay, so we have these weight standards, we have these appearance sort of standards that they need to fit. Yeah, there's a lot of restrictions for athletes. And as you were talking about before, you know, some of them it's overeating, it's too much eating. I gotta gain that weight to make my weight class. All right, this is another interesting one. Fittest woman on earth. We got 2014, 15, or wait, 14, might be 13, 14, 15. I think I missed a year there. But let's just look at the difference in the bodies. Holy smokes. There's a huge difference, isn't there, in just a few years? Wow. Okay. And our last one, ethnic groups. Ethnic groups. Because college campuses are super diverse. We embrace diversity. We invite it in. And sometimes we don't think about, hey, how do some of these populations deal with this? One, in the literature that's prevailing, is Western influence. Okay? Particularly in the form of media. How does our media start to change their cultural norms about how they view body image? Or eating patterns, whether it's eating too much or eating too little. Okay. Different cultures too, they have all these, it's interesting, they have all these different beauty standards. What defines beauty in their culture can be very, very different. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna go to the activity, just because of time's sake. So, let's all get up, stand up, come grab an article, okay? And then find your corresponding group with your corresponding article. And let's kind of gather around in groups.
Horse racing.
Infertility and blood gas.
What's that gas?
Mirror. Okay.
Do you want infertility or horse?
Oh, I have mirror.
Oh, that's so funny.
What are you guys?
Mirror.
Your what?
Mirror.
Oh,
By chance.
okay.
Oh, okay, they're all on the
That's so funny though. We all the same thing.
Okay, so any notes that you've taken so far, you can use the back. Okay, you can use the back of that.
So we write on these?
You can write on those, yes.
You want us to write on the same page?
Yeah, so write your answers on wherever you've been keeping your notes. Okay, where have you been keeping your notes? Everybody kind of found each other? Everybody.
Yeah, that's like 12.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Read and discuss these articles in your groups. Just skim them over, okay? I want you to start thinking about a few different populations. I heard some of you said like, what? I have horse racing or something kind of unique. I picked horse racing specifically because I used to attend a college in eastern Kentucky, and we actually had a lot of jockeys walking around. And it just struck me the other day, you know, wow, these guys are so, not only are they so short, but they are so skinny, okay? And boom, found an article on them. So I want you to just graze over these, come up with some ideas, but then answer these questions, okay? Unique factors that make your population susceptible to body image and or eating disorder problems. Okay? And then why might these problems be hard to detect in your certain population? Because let me tell you, walking around Eastern Kentucky campuses and seeing jockeys, didn't really think anything of it. Because at the time I never thought men had any sort of body image or eating disorder problems. Just something to think about. Okay, go ahead, read, take notes, and we'll discuss in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Career problems, so something like losing a job later in life. Retiring, losing something that provided stability to you, that it's not a part of your routine.
Below. I think we know it anyway.
No, nothing of it. Other than.
Yeah, so. Oh, no.
Points out like pressure within, and I think older women particularly have this pressure to like age gracefully and not like to let themselves go as they get older. I think it's different from the pressure on young women to be thin, so we don't always pay as much attention to it, but it's still there.
That's a great.
Y'all, a couple more minutes. This is just thinking about my past generations has this like,
See, there we go, like talking about.
it was just assumed that
Right.
like diet and behavior and everything. Even though body was changed. Like my grandma's like a teeny tiny woman and she's still always just like 75%. She's like, you're tiny, but it was just like a for like to be the perfect housewife.
It sounds like
I would assume so.
Oh, for like.
Yeah.
I know. Yes. New Mexico, there's a lot of horse racing. It's not thoroughbred horse racing. It's I think it's quarter horse racing. So it's slower, not as fast as like the Kentucky Derby kind of northeastern. Yeah.
Really?
Is it 30 miles an hour?
Just imagine being that small.
Yeah, it's like
I'm sure it gets into
I think it's hard, we're talking about like the greatest, yeah. Sir Martin or trying to think of. I'm a little detached from that Kentucky course.
You know.
Okay. So let's discuss your unique populations here. And we'll kind of go between these two for answers. You don't have to give me all of them, but all answers for both, but just kind of what you derive from them and some of these unique factors that make them susceptible. So who wants to start? Okay, go ahead.
So we had infertility.
Infertility.
And we thought how it was really interesting throughout the culture, how it's seen for women, how it's kind of, like she was saying, it's mostly your body that doesn't work, and for men it's more masculinity. So it's just like two different things that are looked at. And some women feel like it's more on the emotional side, and a lot of people don't talk about it, and it's more common than not common.
Okay. Reading this article, I realized, wow, a lot of couples have infertility issues. And how does that reflect on how they feel about their bodies? You know, because I think there's a lot of self-blame that goes on with fertility issues. Interesting. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Yeah.
I mean, not to go into the gory details, but infertility and miscarriages is something I've gone through. And it's even like, it's been a little while, but it's really hard to like view your body as a positive thing after that.
Interesting. Somebody else's hand up? Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting article. It's a population that I think is very under-researched and underrepresented when it comes to body image problems. We don't think about people that suffer with infertility. Okay, another group. Who? Okay, yes, you're next. Go ahead.
So ours was older people,
Okay.
and like for me, and it was said stuff about relationships and divorce and infidelity. Older woman, husband like cheating for a younger woman, skinnier or more beautiful, so that would like put pressure on like how your body looks to someone else, like to impress someone or to get your man back.
Oh, okay. So taking desperate measures. Wow.
One thing I kind of said is like these things because each individual goes through them differently, but we always are like, well, everybody goes through that. So I think that might be why it's hard to detect because everybody's going through it differently, even if it's something that everybody goes through.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think they mentioned in your article empty nest syndrome too.
Yeah.
So big life changes that could trigger some body image problems or eating disorders, and maybe they had troubles when they were younger, overcame them for a while, but then they've been triggered because of life stress. Interesting. Another group. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna make a comment with that, that something, it kind of touched on, but more than I was thinking about is that some behaviors that we are now aware of, like signs of an eating disorder or unhealthy, in past generations were just like what you did to be thin.
So-
Because eating disorder research, a lot of it's pretty new. It wasn't something that was really talked about when like my grandma was young, or even my mom.
Okay, you bring up an interesting point. Bring up a really interesting point. So our older generations might have suffered from this, but we didn't really have the research or clinical practice to diagnose it. So it was just something that they kind of did. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, both my grandmothers were well, one of them's still alive. She's still very particular about her body. Interesting. Okay, another population. Okay, what was yours?
Ours was fasting and eating disorders,
Okay.
like social, religious factors that
Okay.
kind of like triggers.
Okay.
So some of the unique factors that we talked about were that make this population more susceptible to disorders, eating disorder, like stress, social pressure, and then maybe their determination to prove their faith.
Okay, determination to prove their faith. Okay, through fasting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then, the second question, why it's maybe not as noticeable or why we miss it is, maybe we were talking about usually when we meet for church services, it might not be like an everyday thing, so you don't see them as often and you just don't really, you might not know them on like that kind of like intimate level that you know like a close friend. And then one of them, I think it was Hannah said, like, when you're at church, they might wanna like portray themselves as being like everything's fine instead of like talking about what's really going on, you know, so you wouldn't know because they kind of are making it look like they're just fine, like everything's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So striving for perfectionism,
Yeah.
okay. Upholding an ideal. Anything else?
Saying that fasting doesn't necessarily lead to eating disorders. It's more or less paired with like depression and anxiety. It's a trigger
Okay.
for someone who's already dealing with it. And that's what I'm saying. In a religious setting, you don't really want people to know about your anxiety, so or you're trying to cover all of that. So when you're fasting on top of that, it can lead to bigger things like eating disorders and not a lot of people can see that.
Okay, that's something interesting to think about. It's also interesting to think about is religion like a protective factor? Is it going to protect people against body image or eating disorders, or like you said, for fasting, might it contribute? Go ahead.
So ours was the jockeys, the horse.
Okay.
So the weight requirement for the jockeys is from 112 to 126. But this includes 7 pounds of gear that they have to wear.
Okay.
And so they have to meet at 126. 126 pounds.
Okay, with all their gear,
Yeah.
saddle,
Adult men.
adult men. Okay. Okay. Wow, that's pretty strict. That's pretty strict. Something else.
I feel like it's hard to look at just because they are so elusive, and they're getting paid well. And so they're not gonna be, hey, this is what I do, and shed a bad light on this kind of organization when they could lose their career. And so I think that's why a lot of them, they just accept that that's the weight requirement, instead of kind of fighting against it, because it's the organization that's setting the weight requirement, it's not the horses.
Right.
So it's just interesting that they have that.
Yeah. There's like these kind of stereotypes, right, for jockeys or wrestlers or maybe boxers or any sort of sport that you have to fit a certain weight class. Casey, did you have?
Just kind of like to build off of that, I said that, like kind of like exposing these problems would like put like the reputation of the entire sport at hand, like you know what I mean, like, and I feel like even if somebody was like struggling with it, they wanted to kind of like expose it, maybe they would get like a money compensation to like stay quiet in a way. That wasn't like said in the article, but that's just kind of like a speculation on my part.
Sure.
Just because like it is, I mean the article's the dark side of horse racing, so I mean like it's obviously, such a huge issue and like these people are getting really sick from staying in these weight classes.
So we put, our health and then we put winning on a scale. And the sport of horse racing is ancient. It's absolutely ancient. And the weight requirements that go with it are ancient as well. So, okay. Great group discussions. I love it. And let's take a break.